Dostoevsky was the son of a doctor. Being from an educated and rather well-to-do middle-class family, he had been introduced to a wide range of literature at an early age. It is very likely that he may have read The Republic and other similar works, and the influence of philosophy plays heavily on his writing. Dostoevsky lived in Russia during a time when the majority of the society lived in abject poverty. There was a system of serfdom that enslaved the population and tied them to the land. The masses could not read or write and were treated cruelly by their overlords. This system was abolished in 1861. Dostoevsky would have been intimately familiar with the oppression of the people and the unrest caused by the abolition of a centuries-old practice of indentured servitude. Dostoevsky opposed serfdom and embraced the new ideas of socialism. He was imprisoned for his belief. With his sentence completed, Dostoevsky may have been wary about causing any more trouble, and seems to have settled down somewhat in his radical opinions. He began reading a great deal and also began writing more. He wrote about what he knew, the Russian prison system and the horrors he encountered. Dostoevsky was a very complex person in his writing style. An initial look at some of his writing, you may gauge it as rather simplistic, but there is a layering of psychological insight. The Brothers Karamazov is considered the best work of Dostoevsky by many. I will use examples from the book to help provide an insight into Dostoevsky's views on justice. The book deals with Fyodor Karamazov, the worst sort of person, and his sons. Fyodor is a despicable character who is more concerned with sex, drinking, and money than worrying about his children. He has 3 boys with his first 2 wives. Both wives die and the boys are sent off to live with other families. This allows Fyodor to relish his life of debauchery and control the money left from his marriages. Dmitri, the eldest son, returns to collect his inheritance he feels is owed to him, and his father laughs in his face and states there is nothing left. We found out that Dmitri is in the army and, like his father, loves drinking and carousing. He is constantly seeking to quench his desires. Fyodor is very much like his son Dmitri in that they actually desire the same woman, Grushenka. Ivan, the next son, is an intellectual and is well known for his ability as a scholar. The other son is Alyosha, who is an extremely religious young man who is attempting to become a monk. We find out that there is another Karamazov brother that is the result of the drunken Fyodor forcing himself on a mentally impaired girl from the village. This child is also raised by a servant of Fyodor and is named Smerdakov. The book juxtaposes back and forth between the views of the various brothers. Ivan reluctantly hopes to help his older brother reclaim some inheritance. Alyosha, the saintly brother, also has a dialogue with Ivan. Ivan explains his feelings with the story of the Grand Inquisitor. The Grand Inquisitor is a poem that tells the tale of Jesus Christ returning to 16th century Spain. He begins performing miracles and gains the attention of the Catholic Church. A cardinal has him arrested and begins the interrogation. The Inquisitor recognizes who his prisoner is and begins to admonish Christ for returning. He claims that Christ failed 15 centuries prior when he allowed people to have free will. Dmitri is accused of the murder of his father, and then he is sent to trial to determine his innocence. This is where the story of the Grand Inquisitor and the fallibility of man-made legal systems comes into play by the book. Dostoevsky shows that Dmitri is convicted on flimsy evidence. He was wrongly accused and unjustly punished. Even his brothers turn on Dmitri and do not help to save him in the trial. There is injustice laid throughout the entire storyline, from Fyodor the drunken philanderer who mistreated this family and cheated them out of money, to Ivan and Alyosha's internal conflicts and failure to help their brother, and also the evil Smerdakov who kills his father. Throughout the entire story we see the true hero is Alyosha, who is devoted to goodness and to the devout feelings towards God. What you may have picked up on during the summary of this book is how Dostoevsky uses the ideas of reason, spirit, and appetite to describe his characters. Fyodor and Dmitri being devoted to their appetites of debauchery and drunkenness, Ivan being the element of reason, and Alyosha being the spirited one. We have seen 2 very similar ideas of justice and human nature. Plato focused on the harmony of reason, spirit, and appetite. If you recall, he argued that the 3 parts of the soul should remain in harmony and that they should agree that reason should largely be in control. Dostoevsky uses the family Karamazov to represent a combined entity of the various parts of the soul. How Dostoevsky differs is the placement of spirituality on top. This may be in part to his deep-seated religious beliefs in the Russian Orthodox Church. Both philosophers are using the same base idea, but valuing one aspect over the other two.